The massive screens in Earth's United Space Command Center displayed hundreds of alien faces, each wearing expressions ranging from amusement to open mockery. Commander James Walker stood straight-backed before the transmission, his weathered face showing no emotion as the Galactic Council's representatives laughed at humanity's latest achievement. A seventh-dimensional vessel. The head counselor, a tall being with silvery skin, didn't bother hiding his smile. Humans barely mastered fourth-dimensional travel 2 decades ago. This claim is ambitious. Walker looked at the newly constructed ship through the command center's enormous window. The Infinity Edge floated majestically in Earth's orbit, its dark hull reflecting the sun's rays. Its design was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Smooth curves blending into sharp angles that seemed to hurt the eyes if you looked too long. "We understand your skepticism, Counselor," Walker replied, keeping his voice steady. "But Earth's achievements speak for themselves. The Infinity Edge will launch next week, as planned." More laughter echoed through the chamber. A representative of the Eternals, beings who had mastered sixth-dimensional travel centuries ago, stepped forward, his glowing form pulsed with barely contained mirth. "Perhaps," the Eternal said, "humans do not fully understand dimensional theory. To breach the seventh dimension requires energy levels your species cannot possibly generate. Your sun would need to be harvested completely to power such a vessel." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "We've found different solutions." The council chamber erupted in another wave of laughter. Some representatives were literally falling out of their seats. A few wiped tears from their various types of eyes. The humans in the command center remained silent, watching their commander stand firm before the galaxy's most powerful beings. "Different solutions." Another counselor spoke up. "Like you found different solutions for faster-than-light travel. We remember your first FTL ship. It barely reached the speed of light before breaking down. We had to rescue your crew." Walker remembered that incident. It had happened 15 years ago, when humanity first stepped onto the galactic stage. The aliens had been kind then, in their own way, treating humans like children taking their first steps. But that kindness always came with an edge of superiority that never quite faded. "Times have changed," Walker said simply. "We invite any observers who wish to witness the Infinity Edge's maiden voyage. See for yourselves what humanity has achieved." The head counselor raised a hand, quieting the ongoing laughter. "Very well, Commander. The Council will send observers, but when this vessel fails to perform as claimed, Earth will need to explain itself. False claims of technological advancement are a serious matter." Behind Walker, dozens of technicians and officers worked at their stations, preparing for the upcoming launch. They had all signed unbreakable secrecy agreements. None of them could reveal what the Infinity Edge truly carried within its strange hull. Even Walker only knew parts of it. The full truth was divided among different teams, different scientists, different military branches. "We look forward to your observation," Walker said. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in relative silence, broken only by the soft beeping of instruments and quiet conversations. Dr. Reed, a woman with gray-streaked hair and sharp eyes, approached Walker. "They really have no idea, do they?" Walker shook his head. "No. And that's exactly how we wanted it." "Are the final checks complete?" "All systems are green," she replied. "The dimensional matrix is stable. Power generation is within expected parameters. We're ready." Walker looked again at the Infinity Edge. Its hull seemed to shimmer slightly, as if it wasn't quite solid, wasn't quite there. The aliens weren't entirely wrong. By their understanding of physics, the ship shouldn't work. It should be impossible. But humanity had found something they hadn't, something that changed everything they thought they knew about dimensional travel. "Send word to all departments," Walker ordered. "Begin final launch preparations. When the Council's observers arrive next week, we'll give them a show they'll never forget." Dr. Reed smiled. "They think we're children playing with toys we don't understand." "Let them think that," Walker said. "The laughter will stop soon enough." Through the window, The Infinity Edge's hull rippled once, like water disturbed by an unseen stone, before settling back into its impossible shape. Within its depths, something waited, something that would change the galaxy forever. 3 days before the scheduled launch, Commander Walker followed Dr. Reed through the Infinity Edge's twisting corridors. The ship's interior was just as strange as its exterior, hallways that seemed to bend in impossible ways, doors that appeared to open into nowhere, and windows that showed different views depending on which angle you looked from. "What you're about to see," Dr. Reed said as she pressed her hand against a scanner, "is known to only 5 people on Earth." The hidden door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a chamber that made Walker's eyes hurt. The room was massive, far larger than should have been possible given the ship's external dimensions. In its center floated a sphere of pure darkness, surrounded by rings of light that spun in different directions. The sphere seemed to pull at Walker's vision, as if trying to draw his eyes into its depths. "This," Dr. Reed said proudly, "is the dimensional cascade matrix, the heart of our breakthrough." Walker stepped closer, careful not to cross the warning lines painted on the floor. "It looks alive." "In a way, it is." Dr. Reed moved to a control panel. "The aliens think we're trying to breach the 7th dimension from the outside, like they did with the 6th. That's why they laugh. They know it's impossible with any normal power source." She pressed a few buttons, and the spinning rings changed color. "But we're not breaching it from the outside. We found something else, something they missed in their arrogance." The dark sphere pulsed, and Walker felt a strange sensation, as if his body was being gently pulled in several directions at once. "What exactly did we find?" "We discovered that the 7th dimension isn't above us, like the others." Dr. Reed's eyes gleamed with excitement. "It's inside everything. Every atom, every particle of matter holds a tiny connection to it. The aliens never found it because they were looking up when they should have been looking in." She gestured at the sphere. "This matrix doesn't generate power to breach dimensional barriers. It resonates with the 7th dimensional energy that's already there, in the space between atoms. We're not creating anything new. We're just waking up what was always there." Walker watched the sphere pulse again. "And the aliens can't detect this. Their sensors are designed to detect dimensional breaches, tears in space-time, massive energy expenditures." Dr. Reed smiled. "We're not doing any of that. We're just singing to the universe, and it's singing back." A technician entered the room, handling a tablet to Dr. Reed. She read it quickly, her expression growing serious. "The Eternals have sent 3 warships to observe our launch. They're heavily armed." "They're afraid," Walker realized. "Behind all that laughter and mockery, they're scared of what we might have actually achieved." "They should be." Dr. Reed turned back to the control panel. "Commander, what I'm about to show you will explain why this ship is called the Infinity Edge." She entered a complex sequence of commands. The dark sphere began to spin, its surface rippling like black water. Suddenly, Walker saw multiple versions of the room overlaid on each other, some barely visible, others clear as day. He saw himself from different angles, saw Dr. Reed standing in places she wasn't, saw paths and possibilities that shouldn't exist. "The 7th dimension," Dr. Reed explained, "isn't just about travel or power. It's about probability, possibility, and presence. We can be everywhere and nowhere. We can see every outcome before it happens. We can move not just through space, but through the fabric of reality itself." The visions faded, leaving Walker slightly dizzy. "How many ships like this do we have?" 50. Dr. Reed's answer made him turn in surprise. "They're hidden in dimensional pockets around Earth. The Infinity Edge isn't just our first 7th dimensional vessel. It's the key to revealing our full fleet." Walker looked at the dark sphere again, understanding now why Earth's leaders had kept this secret so carefully. "The aliens think they're coming to watch us fail." "Yes," Dr. Reed said, checking the final launch preparations on her screen. "Instead, they're going to witness the moment everything changes. The galaxy has lived too long thinking They know all the universe's secrets. It's time they learned that humanity found the one secret they all missed. Outside the chamber, the infinity edge hummed with power, its impossible hull rippling with energy that no alien sensor could properly detect. In 3 days, the galaxy would learn just how wrong they had been about humanity's capabilities. Launch day arrived with tension hanging thick in the air. The infinity edge drifted away from Earth's orbit, its strange hull catching starlight in ways that made it seem to fade in and out of existence. Commander Walker stood on the bridge, watching as 3 massive Eternal warships appeared in front of them. The Eternal ships were beautiful in a threatening way. Each one stretched nearly 2 miles long, their golden hulls wrapped in streams of pure energy. They positioned themselves in a triangle around the infinity edge, their weapon sports clearly visible. Incoming transmission, the communications officer reported. Put it through, Walker ordered, straightening his uniform. Captain Marcus Stone of the Eternals appeared on the main screen. Like all his kind, he glowed with internal light, his form barely contained in what looked like human shape. "Human vessel," he said, not bothering with greetings. "You will power down and prepare for inspection." Walker kept his voice calm. "This was meant to be an observation mission, Captain Stone. We didn't agree to an inspection. Your species claims to have achieved 7th dimensional travel." Stone's light pulsed with obvious contempt. "Our sensors detect anomalies from your vessel. The Council requires proof that you haven't created something dangerous in your ignorance." Behind Walker, Dr. Reed whispered, "They're scared. Their sensors can't make sense of what they're seeing." "We decline the inspection," Walker said firmly. "You're welcome to observe our demonstration from a safe distance." The Eternal Captain's glow turned harsh, almost blinding. "You don't seem to understand. This isn't a request. Power down your vessel now, or we will be forced to take more direct action." The bridge crew watched in tense silence as Walker considered his response. They all knew what the infinity edge could do. They also knew that revealing their true power too soon might cause problems they couldn't predict. "Captain Stone," Walker tried one last time, "I suggest you reconsider your approach. We're not the same species you met 15 years ago." "No," Stone agreed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. 15 years ago, you knew your place." The Eternal ships moved closer, their golden hulls now casting shadows over the infinity edge. Energy readings spiked as they charged their weapons. "This is your final warning," Stone declared. "Power down, or we will disable your vessel and board it by force." Walker looked at Dr. Reed, who nodded slightly. "Activate defensive measures," he ordered. "Level 1 only." The infinity edge's hull rippled like water in the wind. The Eternal ship's sensors suddenly went crazy, showing the human vessel in multiple places at once. "What trickery is this?" Stone demanded, his form flickering with agitation. "No trickery," Walker replied calmly. "Just technology you don't understand." One of the Eternal ships fired a warning shot, a beam of concentrated 6th-dimensional energy that should have cut through any normal shield. Instead, the beam passed through what looked like an empty patch of space. The real infinity edge was already 3 meters to the left of where it appeared to be. "Impossible," Stone whispered, his glow dimming with shock. The infinity edge didn't just move through space, it moved through probability itself. Each time the Eternal ships tried to lock onto it, they found themselves targeting empty space. The human vessel seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously, each version equally real and equally false. "Stand down your weapons," Walker suggested. "Let's discuss this civilized." Instead, Stone's shock turned to rage. "All ships, open fire. Full power. Destroy this abomination." Golden beams of energy crisscrossed space where the infinity edge should have been. But the human ship danced between dimensions, between moments of time, between possibilities. Not a single shot found its mark. "Dr. Reed," Walker said quietly, "I think it's time we showed them what Level 2 can do." She smiled grimly and moved to her console. activating dimensional cascade matrix. They wanted to see seventh dimensional power. Let's give them a demonstration. The dark sphere in the ship's heart began to spin faster. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath as the infinity edge prepared to reveal just a fraction of its true capability. Stone's face on the screen showed the first real traces of fear. He had come expecting to humble humanity, to put them back in their place. Instead, he was about to learn why Earth had kept its discoveries secret for so long. The galaxy's laughter was about to stop. The dimensional cascade matrix hummed to life, its dark sphere spinning faster and faster within the heart of the infinity edge. On the bridge, Commander Walker watched as reality began to bend around them. Level 2 defensive measures active, Dr. Reed announced, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Matrix stability at 100%. The Eternal ships continued their barrage, their golden energy beams slicing through empty space. But something was changing. Each time their weapons fired, echoes of the shots appeared in multiple places, as if reality itself was fragmenting around them. "What's happening to our weapons?" Captain Stone demanded, his glowing form now showing clear signs of distress on the view screen. "Why are they multiplying?" Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Your weapons aren't multiplying, Captain. You're seeing them across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. The infinity edge isn't just avoiding your attacks. It's showing you all the places they could have gone. Dimensional planes aren't visible to normal space." One of Stone's officers shouted off-screen, "It's impossible." "Seven-dimensional shift commencing," Dr. Reed reported calmly, preparing to demonstrate true seventh-dimensional manipulation. The space around the infinity edge began to ripple like the surface of a pond. The Eternal ships suddenly found themselves shooting at targets that existed yesterday, would exist tomorrow, and might exist in 1,000 different possibilities. Their sophisticated targeting systems, designed to track ships through 6 dimensions, were completely useless against a vessel that could step sideways through reality itself. "Stop this at once," Stone commanded, but his voice wavered. The mighty Eternal Captain was facing something beyond his comprehension, and he knew it. "We tried to be peaceful," Walker reminded him. "You chose confrontation. Now let us show you why that was a mistake." Dr. Reed pressed a final sequence of buttons, matrix at full power, initiating dimensional fold. The dark sphere at the ship's heart pulsed once, and reality cracked. Not in a destructive way. There was no explosion, no violent tear in space-time. Instead, the fabric of existence seemed to gently fold in on itself, like a piece of paper being carefully creased. The Eternal ships suddenly found themselves trapped in a pocket of space where sixth-dimensional travel was simply impossible. "What have you done?" Stone's voice was barely a whisper. His ship's golden hulls flickered as their energy systems tried and failed to connect with the higher dimensions they relied on for power. "We've created a dimensional boundary," Dr. Reed explained, her voice carrying a hint of pride. "A space where your technology cannot function as intended. Don't worry. It's temporary. Consider it a demonstration." The Eternal ships drifted helplessly, their mighty engines reduced to simple fusion drives. Their weapons, dependent on higher dimensional energy, were useless. For the first time in centuries, the Eternals found themselves limited to merely 3 dimensions. "This is why we kept quiet," Walker said to Stone's increasingly pale face on the screen. "This is why we let you laugh. We needed time to perfect this technology, to understand its implications. We didn't want to start a war. We wanted to prevent one." Around them, space slowly began to unfold, returning to its normal state. The Eternal ships' systems came back online one by one, but their crews seemed reluctant to power up their weapons again. "The Council will hear of this," Stone said, trying to sound threatening despite his obvious shock. "Yes, they will," Walker agreed. "They'll hear how you threatened a peaceful demonstration, how you fired on an unarmed vessel, and how that vessel defended itself without causing any damage to your ships or crews." They'll also hear about what humanity can really do with seventh-dimensional technology. Dr. Reed checked her readings. The dimensional fold has completely dissipated. All space has returned to normal. The eternal ships began to back away slowly, their golden hulls dimmed with what could only be described as embarrassment. "Remember this moment, Captain Stone," Walker said quietly. "Remember what happened when you pushed us too far. Next time, ask yourself, if this is what we can do with just one ship, what else might humanity have waiting in reserve?" The communication screen went dark as Stone cut the transmission. The three eternal ships turned and quickly jumped away, leaving the Infinity Edge alone in now quiet space. "Well," Dr. Reed said with a slight smile, "I believe we've made our point." Walker nodded, watching the stars where the eternal ships had been. The galaxy's laughter has stopped. Now comes the hard part, dealing with their fear. News traveled fast in the galaxy. Within hours of the confrontation, the Galactic Council called for an emergency session. The Infinity Edge remained in space, now surrounded by hundreds of observation vessels from various species, all keeping a respectful distance after hearing about what happened to the Eternal ships. Multiple incoming transmissions, the communications officer reported. "Everyone wants to know how we did it." Walker stood at the center of the bridge, watching the gathering fleet through the main viewport. "Send them all the same message. We'll explain everything at the council session." Dr. Reed approached him with a tablet displaying new data. "Commander, the Matrix is showing some interesting readings. The dimensional pocket we created. It left a permanent mark in space-time. Nothing dangerous, but it's like a fingerprint. Anyone studying that region of space will know something extraordinary happened there." "Good," Walker said. "Let them study it. Let them try to understand. It'll keep them busy while we move forward with Phase 2. The bridge crew exchanged excited looks. They all knew what Phase 2 meant. "Incoming priority transmission from Earth Command," the communications officer announced. "They're giving us the green light for full demonstration." Walker nodded to Dr. Reed. "Begin power-up sequence for full matrix activation." She moved to her station, fingers flying over the controls. The dark sphere in the ship's heart began to pulse with new energy, its rhythmic beats sending ripples through reality itself. "All observation vessels are backing away," Tactical reported. "They're detecting the power buildup." The Infinity Edge's hull began to shimmer more intensely than before. Where it had previously shown glimpses of other dimensional states, it now seemed to exist in all of them simultaneously. The effect was beautiful and terrifying. A ship that was everywhere and nowhere, existing in every possible moment of time while anchored firmly in the present. "Matrix at full power," Dr. Reed announced. "Ready for dimensional cascade." Walker took a deep breath. This would be humanity's true coming-out moment. "Begin the sequence." The dark sphere spun faster, its energy reaching out through the ship. Suddenly, space itself seemed to hiccup. Where there had been one Infinity Edge, there were now 2, then 4, then 8. Each copy was real, solid, fully functional, yet all were the same ship, existing in different layers of reality simultaneously. By the ancient stars, someone whispered from one of the observation ships, their transmission-breaking protocol in their awe. But the demonstration wasn't over. Each copy of the Infinity Edge began to pulse in sequence, creating a wave of dimensional disturbance that rippled through space. Where the wave passed, reality briefly became transparent, revealing the layers of dimensions that existed behind normal space-time. The observation ship's sensors went crazy, trying to process what they were seeing. For the first time, species that had mastered six-dimensional space could see the seventh dimension, not as a theoretical concept, but as a tangible, visible thing. Phase 2, Stage 1 complete, Dr. Reed reported. Moving to Stage 2. The copies of the Infinity Edge began to move in perfect synchronization, their paths creating a complex pattern in space. As they moved, they left trails of disturbed reality behind them. Not damage, but change. They were writing something in the fabric of space-time itself. What are they doing? Came another unauthorized transmission from the observers. Walker smiled. We're showing them the equation, he said, though only to his crew. The basic mathematical proof that reveals the seventh dimension's true nature. They won't understand it yet, but they'll study these patterns for years to come. The equation continued to form, written in the language of reality itself. It was humanity's gift to the galaxy. A glimpse of what they had discovered, shared freely, but in a way that would take time and effort to understand. Finally, the copies began to merge back together, each one folding perfectly into the original until only one infinity edge remained. The patterns they had written remained, glowing softly in space like cosmic calligraphy. Message from Earth Command. Communications reported. They're ready for our arrival at the Council. Walker looked at the assembled observation fleet, their ships still frozen in place as their crews tried to process what they had witnessed. Set course for the Council station, he ordered. It's time to explain to the galaxy that everything they thought they knew about dimensional physics was just the beginning. The infinity edge turned gracefully, its hull still shimmering with seventh-dimensional energy, and began its journey to what everyone knew would be a very different kind of council meeting. The council chamber was different this time. No one was laughing. The infinity edge hung outside the massive station's windows, its hull still rippling with seventh-dimensional energy. Inside, Commander Walker and Dr. Reed stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds. The head counselor, who had laughed the loudest at Earth's claims just days ago, now spoke with careful respect. We have reviewed the data from the incident with the Eternal ships, as well as the subsequent demonstration. The Council formally acknowledges humanity's mastery of seventh-dimensional physics. Murmurs filled the chamber. The Eternal's representatives stood in a corner, their glowing forms dimmed with embarrassment. Captain Stone was notably absent. Thank you, Counselor, Walker said. But acknowledgement isn't why we're here. We're here to talk about change. Dr. Reed stepped forward, activating a holographic display. Above the council floor, the equation they had written in space appeared, spinning slowly. What you witnessed was more than a demonstration of power. It was proof that everything we thought we knew about dimensional physics was incomplete. The alien representatives leaned forward, their various eyes and sensory organs fixed on the floating equation. Many were already taking notes, trying to understand the complex patterns. For centuries, Dr. Reed continued, the galaxy has approached dimensional travel from the outside in, breaking through barriers, forcing reality to bend. But the seventh dimension isn't another layer to break through. It's the foundation of everything. It's been inside every atom, every particle of matter, since the universe began. An eternal scientist burst out, but the energy requirements are minimal, Dr. Reed interrupted. When you work with reality instead of against it, your civilizations have been trying to break down doors that were never locked. You just needed to understand how to turn the handle. The head counselor raised a hand for silence as excited discussions broke out. You said you want to talk about change. What exactly are you proposing? Walker gestured through the window, where the infinity edge suddenly split into its multiple forms again, each one perfectly real, perfectly solid. Humanity could keep this technology to ourselves. We could use it to dominate, to conquer, to rule. That's what many of you would do. It's what some of you have tried to do with lesser discoveries. The chamber grew very quiet. They all knew he was right. But that's not our way, Walker continued. We're offering to share this knowledge. Not all at once. That would be dangerous. But in stages, teaching those who are ready to learn, helping the galaxy understand the true nature of space and time. And what do you want in return? Someone called out. Walker smiled. A seat on the council, equal status for humanity in all galactic affairs, and a promise, written in every language, bound by every law, that this knowledge will never be used for conquest or oppression. The council chamber erupted in discussion. The head counselor tried to restore order, but the excitement was too great. Centuries of established physics were being rewritten. Power structures that had stood for millennia were shifting. Through it all, the Infinity Edge's copies danced outside the window, each one a reminder of what humanity had achieved. They moved in perfect harmony, writing more equations in the fabric of space-time, offering tantalizing glimpses of knowledge to those who would soon be their students rather than their teachers. "There's something else you should know," Dr. Reed said when the noise finally died down. "The Infinity Edge isn't alone." She pressed a button on her control pad. Suddenly, space around the station rippled as dimensional pockets began to open. One by one, more ships like the Infinity Edge emerged. Dozens of them, each one identical, each one powerful enough to change reality itself. "We built a fleet while you laughed at us," Walker explained to the stunned silence. "Not for war, not for conquest, but to make sure that when this day came, everyone would understand that humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever." The head counselor looked at the assembled fleet, then back at Walker. "When can we begin learning?" "Classes start tomorrow," Walker said with a smile. "I hope you're all ready to be students again." Outside, the fleet of seventh-dimensional ships formed a massive circle around the station, their hulls rippling in unison, a display of power and promise that marked the beginning of a new age in galactic history. 1 month after the council meeting, the galaxy was a different place. Commander Walker stood in the New Earth Embassy on the council station, watching ships from 100 worlds arrive for the first official seventh-dimensional physics symposium. "Latest enrollment numbers," Dr. Reed said, entering his office with a datapad. "Over 10,000 scientists from 500 species have signed up for the basic training program. The Eternals sent the most applications." Walker smiled at that last part. From teachers to students, quite a change. The view outside showed how much had already shifted. Ships now moved differently through space, their pilots learning to see reality in new ways. The equations humanity had written in space-time had been copied and studied countless times. Some species had already begun to grasp the basic principles. "Message from Captain Stone," the communication system announced. "Put him through," Walker said, curious. The Eternal Captain had been notably absent since the confrontation. Stone's glowing form appeared on the screen, dimmer and more controlled than before. "Commander Walker, the Eternal Science Council has reviewed your preliminary data. We were wrong. About everything. About you." "That must have been a difficult conclusion to reach," Walker said kindly. "We've spent centuries thinking we were the peak of evolution, the masters of dimensional science." Stone's light pulsed with what might have been embarrassment. "Yet we never thought to look inside, to see what was there all along. Our pride blinded us." Dr. Reed stepped forward. "Your application for the advanced training program has been accepted, Captain. Your understanding of sixth-dimensional physics will actually be very helpful in teaching others." Stone's glow brightened slightly. "You would still have me teach. After everything." "The point was never to humiliate or replace," Walker explained. "It was to elevate everyone. We all have something to contribute." Outside, one of Earth's seventh-dimensional ships demonstrated basic maneuvers for a group of alien vessels. The observers were learning quickly, their ships beginning to show signs of dimensional awareness, even if they couldn't yet manipulate it fully. "Report from the frontier colonies," Dr. Reed said, checking another message. "The new transportation network is already showing results. Travel times cut by 90%. Trade is booming. And the best part, energy consumption is down by 75% across all participating worlds." This had been one of the most immediate benefits. Once ships learned to work with the seventh dimension, instead of fighting against reality, everything became more efficient. The galaxy was growing closer, more connected, more cooperative than ever before. "The Council has approved our proposal for the Dimensional Academy," Walker said, reviewing his own messages. "Construction begins next week. A place where all species can learn together, share knowledge, build a better future." Through the window, they could see the spot where the academy would stand. A massive structure designed to exist partially in multiple dimensions, a physical representation of the new understanding humanity had brought to the galaxy. A small alert sounded. Another seventh-dimensional ripple had been detected. But this one was different. New. Not from an Earth ship. They did it, Dr. Reed said, checking the readings. The Centaurians. They've successfully created their own seventh-dimensional resonance. Small, unstable, but it's there. They're the first to replicate our basic technology. Walker nodded approvingly. Right on schedule. They've always been quick learners. Others will follow soon. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had expected, but in exactly the way humanity had hoped. Not through force or fear, but through understanding and cooperation. The old order of rivalry and superiority was giving way to something new. Another message from Earth Command. Dr. Reed said, her voice excited. They're ready to reveal Phase 3. Walker looked out at the busy space lanes, at the ships learning new ways to move through reality, at the spot where the Academy would stand. Not yet, he decided. Let's give them time to adjust to this change first. After all, we've barely scratched the surface of what the seventh dimension can teach us. In the distance, the equations humanity had written still glowed faintly in space-time, a constant reminder of how much there was still to learn. The galaxy's laughter had stopped, replaced by something far more valuable. Wonder, curiosity, and hope for what they would all discover together. You know what the best part is, Dr. Reed said, watching a group of alien scientists excitedly discussing theory near a viewport. They're not afraid of us anymore. They're not in awe of us either. They're just eager to learn with us. That, Walker said with satisfaction, was the goal all along.